Welcome to the stage, everyone. Everyone sat comfortably. So before we start, I think it would be useful for everybody to introduce themselves and just say a little bit about who you are and what you do. So if I could start with Jessie, please.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here today. Actually, just flying from Ibiza this week, so keeping up the good vibe. So I'm Jessie, Wang from NetEase Cloud Music, a streaming music platform, and overlooking for international business overall, from financial side, content, and collaboration. And good to be here and talking about China digital involvement for the music part.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bart. I run everything dance, marketing and dance A&R related for Warner Music Group.
Hello, I'm Reithler-Barros from A2 Live here in Shanghai, China. We're the producer of Storm Festival, Storm Records, DianYinTai, and a number of other holdings here in China, and we're the IMS producing partner here as well.
My name is Alok. I'm a Brazilian DJ, and I hope I can contribute here. It's my 5th time in China already, so let's do it.
My name is Spencer. I gave the panel earlier on, so you guys already know who I am, I guess.
Well, we're going to just stick with you briefly, Spencer, although obviously you spoke beforehand. Could you just describe a little bit about what your company does and where it's based?
Yeah, sure. So I came here 10 years ago as a DJ. I was a music director for a club called Mint, and then had a kind of background in IT, so I decided to start a platform called Pyro. It's, as I said, a streaming platform and a music resource for electronic music in China. So we do both streaming and downloading for DJs, so it's not just consumer end, it's also as a resource for DJs.
And Alok, obviously you're an artist and DJ as well. Just tell us a little bit about coming from Brazil to China. How come you've been making that trip?
So actually China nowadays is my second home, and I'm really, really happy to be here again. And it all started actually with the fact that from some DJs, it's like, they criticize a lot, but for me it helped a lot was the DJ Mag Top 100, which was the first point that they got the visibility to book DJs here in China by ways before. And then since then I'm working with big companies like Budweiser and doing Storm Festival, which is amazing. So I'm really getting deep here in China, really getting into.
And Eric, you gave in your introduction a little bit of an insight into A2 Live, but in a bit more depth, could you just sort of describe the span of activity that A2 Live now has?
Yeah, so we have our live business, right, which is Storm, large festivals. We do club tours. We do mid-size events throughout China. We're expanding our Storm franchise into Sydney, Australia this December, which is our first step abroad. A record label group that's been launched in conjunction. The first label is Storm Records, which is in conjunction with Spinnin' Records. That's a JV. We have DianYinTai, which is our app that actually competes with Pyro in the market. And we have artist management department. We have talent booking agency as well, and a few more kind of secret projects up our sleeve as we diversify.
Not much then. And Bart, for those that don't know, could you kind of give some insight into the scope of Warner's?
Well, Warner Music, sort of a traditional major label, if you like, since the last three and a half years, pushing very hard on our dance repertoire portfolio, A&R as well as marketing, as well as sort of boots on the ground in most markets now, specialized in dance or EDM, as some of my bosses still call it. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we bought Spinnin' Records as part of the strategy of keep growing what we do and what we represent in the area, and trying to sort of keep that all together is my role.
And finally, a little bit more insight into NetEase as well, please, Jessie.
Well, yeah, we're dominating China's first user-generate mobile streaming, especially, and we have over 300,000 downloads for each day. And well, in a playlist, we are the first one to create the concept of playlists back in 3-4 years ago. So every single day, we have up on live more than 620,000 playlists a day, which meant that's quite a lot. and especially in the electronic dance music. We have the most active and loving music fans on that platform. So definitely we are doing some secret project on the side as well for working with electronic dance music.
So I think globally most observers look to Asia and particularly China as a gold rush now for dance music. Do you see that from your perspective? Is it a market that has a future of significant growth ahead?
For sure. Just looking at the data on our platforms alone, from last year, this time to this year, the electronic dance music streaming has grown 434% just alone on our platform. That is quite amazing number and figures, and it is a time to be in China, but I wouldn't say a gold rush because, I mean, to create the fan base, to raise and to cultivate it, it definitely needs patient time. I wouldn't say that gold rush is a good term for that, but it's time to be here.
And Bart, from a Warner's perspective, what's your perspective on Asia and China, and what are your company's plans?
Well, I just came from an Asian marketing meeting somewhere in Indonesia, and the noises you hear there, it's like you know, we've all heard the billions and trillions and potential and for years now, but it never actually translated into money streams coming out of Asia into the rest of the world for consumption of music, and that is definitely now changing. And so I think in particular also China is sort of moving its way, not just in dance music, but in music in general. It's moving its way into the top 10 global music markets, and some of my colleagues predict that it will be top 3 very soon. So yes. I mean, I would go. I mean, is that gold rush? I don't know. It's just a lot going on, and we should be here. You know?
Eric, I think sometimes as well, people from Europe and America and outside of Asia oversimplify Asia. And do you think that that's probably fair? Because I think a lot of the territories by themselves are enormous untapped territories. Do you think that there's not enough done to expose each individual territory and the potential that it has?
That's a good point. I think that Western marketers and music industry sort of view Asia as, you know, just this one market, when it's not. It's a composite of vastly different markets with different cultures, different languages, different levels of economic evolution. So it's a huge mistake to look at Asia as Asia. We see vastly different, for example, consumption patterns for music between Indonesia and, say, here in China. You're not going to market music the same way to both those two countries at all. So, you know, to that point, I think it's important to view Asia for what it is, which is a quilt of vastly disparate markets. Each one requires very specific knowledge to be effective there in terms of distribution, in terms of marketing, so forth.
Brilliant, thanks, Eric. And Alok, from your experience coming from a very unique country like Brazil into another unique country like China, what challenges have you had kind of transporting yourself from, you know, right round the world to here?
You know what, this moment here is really, really important actually, because I wanted to ask all of them here about, like, specifically about China. Like, for me, for example, I have like a track which has now like achieved 500 million views, which is growing up in Europe, in Brazil, blah, blah. When I got here in China, and no one knows it, you know, because they really like closed market here. And which for me was like a big, like, I was really like scared about it. How really to get in China here, because it's a really specific market. And also, for example, like I saw some ways. So the first way was the top 100 DJ, okay? They got visibility, then can book you. The second thing that I went to China was the partner with Budweiser, which put me in Bud Storms in a lot of festivals. But also, I think that it's still missing like this 360. Yeah. It's a management, it's a label that works in China, you know what I mean? It's people that understand the market here, and not only about like top 100 DJs or only being festival. I really want to build up something in China that I'm thinking about like the long term and not only now, you know. So that's why I'm really getting into here in China, you know. I really believe in this market, and I really think that like since 1 year, like last year, how things changed from now. You know, it's crazy. People are getting really into the electronic music and like this pop scene.
Yeah, it's a fascinating point, and it's actually something that we're working on at the Association for Electronic Music, is to design a template for the perfect ecosystem for electronic music, so that you can put that template and assess a country like China or assess a country like Brazil and see which bits are missing. Because our experience in India was that after the EDM rush kind of left, there weren't enough labels, publishers, media, tech companies to then carry on the business of electronic music. So that infrastructure that actually a lot of your business is now growing, from labels to media, etc., is really important. Otherwise, it's a very short-term burst, and then it kind of peters out. Spencer, you've worked around the industry in various roles, and particularly in various roles here. Looking specifically at recorded music, how has recorded music consumption changed in China, and how is it all working now in terms of the flow of money?
Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows or has this feeling about China. A lot of people get everything for free. So people have been expecting music, they download it for free. Not many people have been paying for it for a long time, but I think it's starting to change, definitely. Like, for instance, our platform, we just started monetizing. So we started charging DJs a fixed fee per month to download as much as they want. It's higher than everyone else is charging because, you know, I want to reward the labels, I want to reward the DJs, so they can start understanding why they should pay for something. Because in the end of the day, it all comes back into their own pockets, and that builds the industry. So we've been working very hard with DJs as KOLs, basically. And I think over the last 3 years, you know, the DJs have just kind of started exploding here in China. That's why we did the top 100. And if you look on the WeChat groups and everything, DJs share all their music all the time. So, you know, my total focus of Pyro is the DJs as the KOL. So we provide them a service, and then the consumers come on top of that. And I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten the DJs. You know, if you look internationally, Spotify, okay, yes, you make money from streaming, that's great, but platforms like Beatport, you know, they're struggling because people don't want to pay $3 or $4 a track. You know, they prefer to go to a Russian site, pay $20 a month and download as much as they want. So, you know, my model is to try and do that legally, and this is why we're doing it in China first, and then we hope to expand out to the rest of the market. But with regards to kind of like international DJs wanting to come in, you know, I've always said it's best to work with the local DJs. They're the guys that are becoming the KOLs. That's how you get the exposure here. That's how you get the tracks played, you know, remix contests, those kind of stuff. And I think, you know, within a few years, you can start to generate money. We've done a couple of, because we do licensing deals as well. So we have a platform, we have a company called Groove Dynasty, which we represent around 40 big accounts like Armada, Monster Cat, Revealed, Hardwell, Armin van Buuren, and we run all their socials. We also do licensing deals. We did a deal with NetEase, and we're doing stuff with Tencent as well, representing catalogs like Labelworks and Beat Rising. So we're doing a lot of stuff. It's just taking a time. But make no mistake, China is absolutely huge. It's going to be really, really big here.
It's a follow-up comment. I mean, you know, we talk about you know, Beatport downloads. I was reading the IFPI report this year where it stated that the illegal download rate for downloaded music in China is nearly 100%. So you're talking streaming, of course, is the main mode of consumption, but then there's market peculiarities too. I mean, if you're Chinese in the room, you know KTV, you know karaoke. And believe it or not, karaoke is, I think it's the second or third biggest mode of consumption of any genre of music in this country. So if you're not, you know, plugged into these KTV, these karaoke networks, these karaoke establishments around the country, you're dead. You know, they have charts for karaoke places that mean something. So, you know, I think you got to really zoom out and take a holistic view that, you know, that this is a very sort of unique market in many ways, like that karaoke example, for instance.
Thank you. And Jessie, from your experience, how different is this market to Europe and the US, and can it be monetized in a way that everyone that contributes to music can make money from music?
Well, for now, as we take a look at China's market, it's 44.8% revenue generating from streaming paid subscribers. And approximately 30% from single album downloads and only 6.6% from like ads. So I would say that still the paying model in China comes driven are paid subscriptions. But I mean, it takes a time for people in China to, monetizing from making music or making people to pay for the music. I believe it's per capita in China's data. It's each one. It's 15 cents for each Chinese people to actually pay for in a year, which that number it's only 1% of what the U.S. spends. So, I mean, it takes time definitely for all the platforms to work together to push everything, to sign the deals exclusively, non-exclusively, to have people actually get comfortable and used to paying money on subscription model or downloads. Yeah, for sure.
And Bart, I'm guessing that Warner's are treating the territory differently. Do you look at it and say, okay, we can't apply the rules that we've always applied before?
Well, it's work in progress, and there's tailor-made solutions for everything. But I think what's happening, and I agree with what was previously said, there is no one Asia. It's like China is different than Korea, and definitely different than Japan for us. But it's work in progress, and I think the signs are there. If you look at, I think China might be one or two places off, but just don't shoot me for wrong information, but I think it's the #2 film market in the world, and it's the #1 online gaming market in the world. Music is around about 16 or 15, growing fast. There is no reason, I think, with the development of new ways of consuming music, that's not going to grow extremely fast in the next couple of years, and we will have a situation where China is a very important market for us, and the rest of Asia as well. So, but to find the right people to set up, we used to be linked to an existing China company. Now we have our own Chinese office. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's all, I think, in very very soon it will all be worth it.
And is that one of the key parts to a plan in Asia, is to work with experienced and insightful partners?
Well, it's like, I think we have 9 offices in Asia, and we have our head office or a regional head office in Hong Kong, which sets us slightly apart from other majors as well. It's like we need people that are actually here and that can deal with the business here. And obviously, we have some of the old EMI offices are now Warner offices. So it's like there's a lot of people working on this, and it's all moving in the right direction. So we're very confident. Where there's some work to do is on the artistic side. I think sort of a music industry develops best if it's also got a healthy share of local music in it, and particularly on the dance side. Obviously, it's early days, but there's masses of talent here, so we just need to figure out how we're going to deal with that and how we're going to develop that so it gets more ingrained into those services as well.
I think everyone in the room will be reassured to hear that you're looking for local talent. Eric, if we could just switch gears into the live sector, how on your watch has that evolved over the last few years, and just how big do you think the live sector is going to get?
It's just getting bigger and bigger. I've seen some interesting statistics, even just this week, about percent of wallet share spent on music that's spent on live. It's astronomical. One report I read was $140 per Chinese consumer per year spent on live entertainment, live music. So it's growing. There are definitely challenges to that growth. I think we certainly run into issues here. Regulatory issues are very prevalent. It's tough to do a festival here. You're dealing with government bodies that sort of don't really understand what you're doing sometimes, and it's sort of a growth over many years to show them, hey, this is actually okay. This is good for the economy. So that can get a little stringent. That's certainly something we've noticed as a challenge. But the opportunity is, it's a 1.3 billion population economy here. It's the second most powerful economy in the world, and so it's a huge prize. It's still nascent to electronic music, so this is still new here. We're seeing here today what what we saw in America 15 years ago, what we saw in Benelux and Europe 25 years ago. So it's sort of, if it follows that same hockey stick, there's an immense opportunity here to be had by rights holders.
And your experience is quite unique as well. How have you seen China change in the time that you've been coming here, and where do you think it's going next?
I remember like the first clubs I used to play here, I was playing and people were like playing games, you know, gambling. I was like, really? Like, yeah, still do that? But I mean, those last 2 tours, I haven't played in those clubs anymore, actually. And even like when we go to some place in China, I was like afraid of going because I wasn't like, I didn't know what I could expect, you know. But now, like this last tour, every place I went to play, people were really connected, really understanding what's going on, you know. And they're really into more and more electronic music. And that's why I think that the growing in China is being like so fast, you know. And yeah, I'm really excited about everything's going on. Even the festivals I've been playing in Budstorm, you can see how people are really like interacting, you know, with the DJ, with the music.
And Spencer, a slightly left field question for you, but I think 3 years ago when we were here, we were talking about the difficulty, particularly in China, of getting hold of production software and production equipment. Have you, from your perspective, have you seen that change? Are you seeing more and more local producers emerge, or is that still a challenge?
Well, definitely, there's been a growth of DJs making their own music because it's, you know, it's core to your plan of becoming, you know, if you want to become the biggest DJ, you have to make music, you know, edits or your own remixes or your own productions. But there is definitely a language barrier. I think that if you're a local DJ and you can't speak English, I don't think many of the actual production softwares come in Chinese, so there's not even a word for how, you know, you do compression or you know, put side chains on or whatever. And also communicating with the international labels. A big thing for a Chinese DJ is to get a record on an international label. 3 years ago, you know, it just didn't exist, but it started happening now. You've seen a lot of the DJs in our list, they're signing labels internationally, and I think it's for 2 reasons. One, it's very important for the labels to be here because they're getting that extra exposure, signing a local talent. It really helps them get their exposure and come into the market. And 2, it's very important for a Chinese DJ to say, hey, well, I'm signed on an international label. It kind of elevates them above all the other DJs that are here. So as soon as one does it, everyone else wants to start doing it, and that's what drives a lot of the growth here for the DJs wanting to make music.
Jessie, are you seeing a fair mix on your service between international music and local music? Are you seeing growth in Asian and Chinese producers?
Well, from both sides, for the listeners, of course, well, we have almost more than 51% of the listener and users on the platform which listen to non-Chinese music. And that's quite a number. And also, Nice Club Music has more than 50 labels, and electronic DJs actually open social account with us. So for example, Steve Aoki had an account with us back in 2 months ago. Now the music video that he posts on, it hits 200 million already. So for sure, that's it's a way that people are more accepting for niche music, for electronic dance music. And we are also a land to cultivate and then build a bridge between the artists and then the fans, for sure. I mean, it's just a start and a beginning, and for sure, in the next years, coming up, will be more DJs and labels who are willing to promote themselves on our platform or in any platforms in China. Yeah.
And to what extent has electronic music made it into the mainstream here, or is it still, even the commercial end of electronic music, is it still underground and away from the TV and away from the radio and media in general?
Well, I believe with more and more festivals like Storms and DJ live shows and more international access that our users get, it's moving definitely not underground anymore. It's mainstream. I mean, look at the data. Electronic dance music are the second most popular music genre other than pop. 70% of people listen to pop. Everyone loves pop. But dance music counts for 40% already that people listen to it every day. So it's quite a number, yeah.
Eric, if I could turn to you, it strikes me that there's a world of opportunity in Asia and in China because we don't have the legacy here of success and mistakes that have been made. So what do you think are the new opportunities? What's coming and what can people take advantage of in Asia?
That's a good question. I mean, I think diversifying outside of, as we're doing, outside of one key product or service and creating satellite services that complement that, an ecosystem as such is a smart play. I don't think being a one-trick pony is going to ensure success for you in this region. It's growing too fast. Consumer tastes are fickle. They're all over the place. So you kind of got to, have your eggs in several baskets. I think that's one thing. Another thing, well, for example, like what we're looking at is what we're calling a transmedia strategy. So if you have multiple properties, festivals, record labels, DJ schools, an app, all these various things, these various faces of your company, what ties that together? And so we're looking at, could we take a narrative to tie those things together? So Storm Festival, for example, there's this background story of these Arcturian aliens, right, that come to Earth in this spaceship called Storm, looks like our logo, and there's a story there, season after season of Storm, that is told in the background through the marketing, through the visuals, through the stages, and can we port that into a Storm movie, a comic book, an ARG? And tie all these pieces together. So the opportunity, I think, is to get innovative and just start thinking along those lines of integrated branding across media properties. That's where I see sort of greenfield opportunity here in Asia at the moment.
And Bart, do you see the same opportunity in Asia, that there are some legacies you can leave behind that are the bedrock of European revenues and new opportunities you can move to quickly here?
Well, there is, I suppose not having the history could be seen as an advantage if you can sort of try and make it or push it in the way that you think it should be going, but then again it's like the principle stays the same. It's like from my or our point of view, it's about talent. It's about like sort of who can you find that actually can make the music that attracts more people into the ecosystem, if you like, and then sort of makes the difference. And it's like it doesn't really. I mean, it needs underground. It needs sort of dance pop. It needs future stars as well. It's like someone just told me that is it 100 cities with more than 1 million people in China? If they all need their electronic festival, then we are woefully short of headliners to keep filling those stages. So it's like there's a big challenge there as well. There's just not enough going on, I think, quality-wise, music and in artist development. That trajectory that needs a lot more investment and a lot more people in it. Otherwise, we're gonna run into trouble.
But what are the platforms that would enable that? Is that a festival, a label, a management agency? Like, how do you see that?
That all hooks into each other. And it's like sort of we try and develop artists. They obviously need to play. Some artists we chase or we pick up because they're already performing DJs, turning into producers and making their own music, or it can be the other way around. I mean, there's no rules. It's like, and depends also. It's like when in the stage of a career of an artist do you come onto their path? It's like sometimes they're already more or less there. They just need that little bit extra. Sometimes you just pick them up when they're starting, and you need to try and figure out everything with them. So, but I think there's a lot. It's like there is really, if this goes the way that we hope and think it's going, then there is a need for artists. I think there's not enough of them.
And Alok, because you can kind of span continents, do you see differences here? Is there innovation in China in the live space and in the artist space? Are there things that are being done here that are very different to back home?
You know, China is different from the whole world, you know. And you know what I really believe, like it can work in China is the same thing that like work in Brazil, which I'm not making like more like electronic music club track club songs. I'm trying to do pop songs, which have also the club versions to play in the market. But you can achieve much more people in that. You know, you can achieve not only like the young people that are really into the electronic music, but you can achieve also people that like pop, love pop songs. That's why also I did a song with Yi and Shan here in China, which is a huge pop singer here, and which I believe that we can build up something together, which is more like it can get everyone. You know, not only electronic scene, and then there you can get bigger and bigger in the electronic scene. So basically, like, I really would like to know what Warren is thinking about what they're doing now in China, because now Spinning and Warren, they got together, and I'm signed with Spinning. I'm really excited to know about it. And also, like, talking about I really want to know more. I really want to know more electronic, like, artists from China, local China. I really want to know. I really want to see more. I haven't seen much. And I also, like, really respect what Eric's doing in A2. Like they're investing a lot, they put a lot of effort to make all those festivals to happen. And I've been really close, and I saw how hard it is to make in some places. Like the government sometimes doesn't help a lot, you know, they really do not understand. So I know you have a lot of challenge here, and I know it's like missing some local heroes to make it, like, you know, which I think that it can connect with international acts and build up something together, you know. Because what I see is, okay, like you have great songs working on here, but the artist doesn't get really big. Only the song get big. And how can you build up something in collaboration with like the artist or the image of the artist? You know, not only like getting a big song here, but you have to bring the artist here and make the artist big as well, so that you can build up heroes. You know.
What do you think about that, Spencer? The sort of challenge of making a big artist versus a big song in China?
Well, it's quite interesting what you talk about, like trying to make like radio stock tracks and stuff. There's a bit of a phenomenon here in China, is that a lot of the Chinese users actually can't read the name of the song, what it is. So download packs are very popular here. So that's one of the reasons why we do download packs and, you know, just pay per month subscription. So they'll download the whole pack, and that will be their music for the week, for the next week. But definitely, like, from what I see in clubs, you know, I've been a DJ for a long time, you know, obviously involved in a lot of these clubs. Radio tracks don't really get played in these clubs. It's club tracks that get played in the big room clubs, right? And so if you've got a radio hit, unless it's a really big radio hit internationally, it's never going to get played in the club here. Like for instance, even Storm did collaborations with Tiesto and some of the local artists. They did quite well online, but you didn't hear these songs get played in the club. None of the radio tracks get played there. So, you know.
Sorry, for example, like Alan Walker, Faded. For me, it's not like a really club track. It's more like a radio song.
Sure,
and
well,
that's huge, you know.
Sure, that's like I said, like a one-off. That is a huge track. You can't include that in what we're talking about, I think, because that track is, everyone in China know that, and it's just a phenomenon, you know, it just happened. But I think, you know, for an artist trying to get into China, you've got to get the DJs to play these tracks if you want the club support, and then, I mean, the infrastructure's still not here, and hopefully with what what Eric's doing with A2 Live and the Storm Records, we're going to have more local-based labels, and I've seen a couple of them pop up. There's a few local guys starting to do labels here, but it's still very, very early days. So it is definitely difficult to transition from like getting radio play or getting play on an app or getting play in a club. Definitely you should be working with platforms like NetEase to get your tracks in a key position, you know, in their hot playlists or on their front page. This kind of stuff is important to do, I think, if you want to get good plays online. But that doesn't always translate to club bookings. The infrastructure's not quite there yet, I don't think.
Is that the conundrum, particularly in China, that to achieve big visibility and economic success, you need to go pop, but in the process of going pop, you kind of lose your underground credentials?
I know, is that not a problem a lot of places, I guess? But yeah, I mean, China's difficult. I mean, China's a lot more about, you know, who you're connected with, who you know, because a lot of these people, you say, for instance, they'll look at the DJ mag list and they'll be like, oh, he's number 25, but they don't know who he is. You know, just because he's number 25, they'll be like, oh, we go, check that out. So people don't really understand it yet, so they don't properly know what the DJs are. So it's more about like which agent you might be connected with, who might book you at those clubs to do a tour, and they might give you.
So like the top 100 DJs more important than the song, you mean?
Yeah, in China, for me personally, yeah, the DJ mag is probably the most powerful in China than anywhere else in the world, I think. That's why we try to do our own list, to create the local superstars so that they can start getting paid a bit more money for their DJing. When I first came here 10 years ago, if you're a Chinese DJ, you made like maybe $500 a month, 500 to $1,000 a month. You play 6 nights a week at the same club. I mean that's pretty soul destroying for any DJ to be basically be a jukebox in the same club. But now the market is developing and there's some real superstars. I mean, the guys that I named in the list, they're all making international records. They're headlining festivals. I went to a show a few months ago. It was called Madhouse in Shenzhen. They had one international headliner, which was Kashmir, but people went there for the local DJs. They went there for Carter, for Panther Q, these guys that are local Chinese DJs doing international stuff, and they went crazy for it. And it was amazing to see because it was the first time that I'd really, after being here for a long time, seen people go crazy for local Chinese DJs that were doing big things. And that, that kind of made me feel really like, yes, this is happening. This is really good.
Jessie, how important is it to you to start developing local heroes so that the market stands on its own 2 feet?
It's definitely very important. And also, I mean, we have in the back, we have an artist index where everyone, or DJ or artist, you can, just produce a song and then put on, and once we civilians and take a look, and then we'll just publish in the front desk. Which meant when the artist that a single song or album that he or she produced that hits certain index, we're actually trying to promote him on our, the front or the catalogs and the playlist. And by then, we can actually bring with big festivals and DJ live shows and then cooperating with clubs and producers for sure. That's a way to make and spot a good local stars and DJs. And also, I think electronic dance music, it's not just music itself, it's also the experience on set. For example, when you went to Shenzhen, a good show there, I'm sure that the production, the people don't really care that much about who specifically is playing, but it's just the whole on-set experience that night, the light, the production, everything. So I believe that Chinese, we have definitely a lot of potentials creating our own stars. So people going for either a good qualified experience on set, or they're going for big festivals like Storm for the big 100, DJs. So both of the experience are there. That's how we need to lead the people to cultivate and tell them what's good, what's not. That's why we're all here.
And Eric, from your perspective, when you're on the lookout for the local heroes, where do you find them? I mean, can the big festival scene in China coexist with the small club scene? Because, I mean, if you look at the ladder in music in the US and Europe, historically, everyone cuts their teeth as a DJ in a small club, then it's a big club, then it's a bigger club, then it's a festival. But yet, that balance of club and festival seems different here. So how do you find people at the beginning of their career?
I mean, in some cases, it might actually be inverse. It might be, stars that are born yesterday and are playing main stages at the festival that are now trying to get more credible and authentic and trying to get into play at underground clubs. So if anything, it's sometimes we see the reverse pattern. In terms of finding talent, I mean, there's a lot out there, that's for sure. We're always looking for ways to find. I mean, for our label, for example, we're just now starting to A&R our pipeline and find that talent. But I mean, it's tricky. It's a big population. It can be a needle in a haystack. One thing we've noticed is that where are producers and where are the future stars of this genre generally made, so to speak? Well, we see that music academies around the world have been the hotbed for that. We see Point Blank as our partner here in the next room, right? That's here right now. The Point Blank Music School. Icon and others out there. would that work for China? Would a model to have music academies in this market for this genre sort of be the starting point way upstream of discovering talent? Maybe, right? So these are the things we talk about and think about when we look at our business to say, how can we capture the earliest phase talent locally, Chinese talent, and lift it as much as possible? But is there a definitive answer to that? And probably not yet. I think that's another year or two to come, and some mistakes made, and some trials and tribulations till we have a better beat on that.
Great, thank you. And if we now just move on to advice to people looking at the market from all perspectives, Alok, what's your advice? What would you say to a producer or a DJ looking to Asia? What's your advice on how they can get in and how they can become successful?
Okay, Asia, I'll start from China, and then I go, okay. So for me, it's actually a challenge that I've been passing through, you know. But what I believe is you have to break the formula, you know. You have to have your personality, because like if you do what everyone does, basically you're gonna be just one more, you know. So that's why I'm always trying to bring some new thing to the market, some new songs, some new ideas, new formulas, and really to break the barriers, you know. And talking about Asia, I think it's like the same way, but Asia, I think it's easier. I mean, Asia without China, because they're more connected to the West side, you know. They're more connected to what's going on over there, which also have big song records going in Asia. And so I think like in China, what I was wondering here is like, to get into here, I have to make good collaboration with local artists, with like people that are working here. Not only local artists, but local brands and local festivals and local management agencies. I really have to work with the people that are working here. You know, I can't really like do my job outside and come here and expect that everything will work out as going on over there. It's not true at all. And I hope, honestly, that in like, long term, the top DJ 100 won't be more important than the music. And I hope things change it over here, you know. But I totally understand that from now, to book artists and to the crowd to get known, they're getting really reference about top 100 DJs.
I think you saw from your music, right? You said that you had a big track internationally, but here no one really knew it. So your first exposure came from the DJ mag, which...
And Spencer, what's your advice to labels or businesses outside of Asia and specifically China on how to get in? How easy is it to find those trusted partners that you could work with?
Am I allowed to pitch my business here or not?
You can pitch it a little bit.
So yeah, we have a kind of part of our business called Groove Dynasty, and so we run, as I said, we actually look after accounts on NetEase, Weibo, WeChat. We run all the socials, and we also do licensing deals. My advice is to look long term, not be short-term focused. So, you know, Spinning Records, who are you know, definitely the leaders here when it comes to the labels. You know, the way they approach it, they give their music to everyone for free. Just make sure it's on every platform, make sure it's properly represented, make sure the music's out on time, make sure they've got the relationships with those partners so they can get their music featured in the right place. And that's kind of the first step. And then gradually, as the market develops, we can start generating income from it. And I think, like, as a label, yes, it's good for you to generate money on your income, but also, if you're looking at China as a market, it's definitely a value add to anyone that is signing to your label. You can also say to them, well, actually, we've got a big following in China. It's a big value add, because that artist is going to be like, okay, cool, you can promote me in China. I can definitely translate that into shows and generating income for myself. So that's kind of the pitch that we give to the labels, is just look at long term. And, you know, as NetEase said,
can I ask you something? Do you think it's possible to electronic music get into Chinese radio, or do you think it's really specific to like pop songs? And
no, definitely. I mean, there's lots of big stations. Hit AFEM, they do lots of podcasts and radio shows from some of the big DJs. You know, sometimes we get music placed on there, but I think personally it's all online. Like, the way I feel about it is that the young kids that you're really touching, like the, you know, the 15 to 24-year-olds, they're using QQ, or they're using NetEase, or they're using the online social media stuff to really do it. So through those online platforms, and then through backing up through actual live performances, makes a big difference. So that exposure definitely helps. But getting on Hit FM if you've got the right person to know, like me, I can help you get the music on that.
Thanks. Jessie, what's your advice to businesses or individual artists looking to become successful in China and the broader Asian market?
I think China is a very unique market once again, and I feel it's one of the most big metropolitan cities, and then just look at it around Shanghai, the people, the crowds, and the environment, the dining service, everything, but the music industry and also the nightlife genre, we have a much more potential. And it's really just starting right now with all the helps of storms and to push all the market forward, and then to cultivate the actually fans for electronic dance music, and then to as NetEase Cloud Music to build a bridge between the artists, DJs, and then the fans in China, as well as the DJ live shows and nightclubs. And then there's a lot of parties working together to push the industry forward. And just looking the data once again, because NetEase Cloud Music, we're heavy on the data. So in this era, data really speaks. When you look at the data and then the demands from our fans and the platforms, you see that it's where you want to be, and then you say it's growing each and every even week or month. The data is rising, like skyrocketing. So I'm sure from different perspectives, there's a way to get in and work together. Yeah.
Great. And actually, just following on the spinning comment, how important is spinning to your Chinese strategy?
It's part of it. It's all early days. Obviously, spinning has been active here. The way they are set up to actually catch talent, or to give talent the ability to actually get in touch with them directly, and their platforms and the machinery that they have behind it is obviously very important to us. But it's like, if there's one advice, if you like, from a label perspective, what Jenny says is like data, follow the data, and data is very important. I mean, I would go one step further. I think it's more about talent and actually developing that talent. And I agree with what Luke earlier said. It's like sort of, please don't send stuff that is not good. I mean, we all have ears. We all know what good production sounds like, or even what a good song. I mean, it's like we can debate about that, but some of you really need to work hard and relentless and be as driven as some of the sort of big guys out there, and that is very driven, I can assure you, to actually even think that you have a chance to actually become sort of part of that elite club, if you like. But anyway, so it all starts there. It is like, what can you do? What production talent do you have? How long have you worked? It's about those whatever they say, 10,000 hours of training, if you like. So don't just expect that. Put 2 tracks on SoundCloud or wherever, and someone will find you, and it's going to all be great. That doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. Brilliant. And some closing words from you, Eric. What's your advice to anyone looking into the market on how to break in and succeed?
Yeah, I mean, whether you're a label or an artist or a festival or any player in this space, in China, I would say stay the course, remain authentic, dare to set your own trends. The trends that do exist here aren't based on a lot of history in this genre. So the opportunity is to just stay focused and do what you do rather than following trends. Make your own, because it's a very fertile garden here.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we've got time for 1 or 2 questions. So if anyone would like to ask anybody on the stage anything, then put your hand up and we'll try and get a microphone to you. Not that I can actually see any hands go up, but bright lights. Anyone got any questions? No, we've done a brilliant job. Cool. All right, well, in that case...
Must have covered everything.
Yeah, I must have covered everything. Done. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you very much, everybody on stage, and thank you very much, everyone in the audience.